It was the kind of Saturday afternoon that begged for a long ride. Sunlight glinting off chrome, wind whipping through leather jackets, engines rumbling like thunder rolling down the open road. The Iron Saints Motorcycle Club had pulled into a dusty roadside diner just outside a small town in Georgia. Big men with tattoos, worn boots, and heavy beards sat around picnic tables, laughing over burgers and coffee, the kind of crew most people crossed the street to avoid. Then, out of nowhere, the sound of frantic footsteps cut through the laughter. Everyone turned. A little girl, no more than 7, came sprinting toward them, barefoot, her face streaked with dirt and tears. Her blonde hair was tangled, her pink dress torn at the shoulder. She was crying so hard she could barely breathe. "Please! Please help! They're beating my mama!" she screamed, her tiny hands trembling as she pointed down a gravel road behind the diner. The laughter died instantly. Every biker froze. Forks clattered against plates. You could have heard a pin drop. The leader, a big man they called Bear, pushed back his chair. He was 6'4", built like a wall, with a thick beard and eyes that had seen too much of the world's darkness. He stood slowly, towering over the child. "Sweetheart," he said gently, crouching down to her level. "Who's hurting your mama?" The girl hiccuped between sobs. "My mama's boyfriend." "Hey, he's drunk again. He's hurting her real bad. She told me to run, but I didn't know where to go. Then I saw you." A Bear glanced back at his crew. No words were needed. Within seconds, the roar of engines filled the air. The Iron Saints mounted their bikes, the little girl wrapped safely in the arms of one of the riders. Dust flew as they tore down the gravel road she had pointed to, the sound of the engines like a battle cry. The house came into view, a run-down trailer half hidden behind weeds and rusted cars. From inside came shouting. Then a crash. Then silence. Bear killed the engine first. The door burst open and a man stumbled out. He was shirtless, sweating, reeking of alcohol. He stopped when he saw the line of bikes, a dozen men staring at him with eyes colder than steel. "What the hell is this?" The man spat, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. Bear stepped forward, slow and steady. "We heard you were laying hands on a woman," he said quietly. The man sneered. "Ain't none of your business. She's my woman." He didn't finish. In one motion, Bear grabbed him by the collar and lifted him off the ground. "Wrong answer," he growled. "She's somebody's daughter, somebody's mother, and right now, she's our business." The man swung a fist, but Bear barely flinched. The punch landed like a mosquito bite. In an instant, Bear shoved him back against the trailer wall, his voice low but dangerous. "You ever touch her again, and I swear you'll wish we never found you." Another biker, a tall redhead named Tank, went inside. Moments later, he came out carrying a woman in his arms, a woman in her late 20s, with bruises on her face and blood at the corner of her lip. Her eyes fluttered open weakly as she saw her daughter. "Mommy!" the little girl cried, running to her. The woman started to sob. "I told you to run, baby. I told you to." "It's okay," the girl whispered, clutching her mother's hand. They came. Bear turned to his crew. "Get her in the van," he said. "We're taking her to the hospital." The drunk boyfriend stumbled forward again, yelling, "You can't just take her! She's mine!" Bear didn't even look back. He nodded once to one of the bikers, a quiet man named Diesel. A second later, the man found himself face down in the dirt, groaning. Nobody said another word. They left him there, dust settling over the wreckage of what he'd done, while the Iron Saints rode off, mother and daughter safe between them. At the hospital, the woman was treated for a broken rib and several bruises. The nurse thanked the bikers, but Bear just nodded. "She don't need thanks," he said, glancing at the little girl asleep in a chair. "She needs a chance." That night, they waited in the lobby until they knew both were safe. The woman's name was Emily. She'd moved to that town only 6 months ago, hoping for a fresh start after leaving an abusive marriage. But she'd fallen for the wrong man again, and the cycle had repeated itself. She told Bear through tears that she had nowhere to go, no family nearby, no money left. Bear looked at her for a long moment. "You got a car." She shook her head. "Then you've got us," he said simply. Over the next few days, the bikers took shifts staying at the hospital, bringing food, flowers, toys for the little girl, whose name was Lily. They called her Little Angel. When Emily was discharged, the Iron Saints rode as her escort, their bikes forming a protective circle around the borrowed car Bear had arranged for her. They took her to a women's shelter in another county, one with strict security and good people who could help her start over. But the story didn't end there. Weeks passed. Life rolled on. The Iron Saints kept riding, kept living their rough lives on the road. But Bear couldn't shake the image of that little girl running down the road, barefoot and terrified, calling out for help. It haunted him. He'd been in the military before joining the club. He'd seen women and children running from war zones. He'd seen helplessness before, but something about Lily had cut deeper. So one night, after a long ride, he gathered his men in the clubhouse. "We say we're about brotherhood," he told them. "But brotherhood ain't just about us. It's about what kind of men we are to the people who can't fight back." They listened in silence. That night, they voted, unanimously, to start something new, the Guardian Ride. Once a month, the Iron Saints would hit the road not for fun, not for show, but for protection. They'd visit shelters, schools, and struggling neighborhoods. They'd host rides to raise money for victims of domestic abuse. They'd escort women escaping dangerous situations. Word spread fast. Soon, news stations started showing clips of tough bikers riding beside battered women, helping them carry boxes into new homes, giving Christmas gifts to kids in shelters. The once feared Iron Saints became local legends. Months later, at one of their charity rides, Bear spotted a familiar face in the crowd. A little girl holding a balloon, smiling shyly, Lily, and behind her Emily, healthier, stronger, standing tall. When they saw him, Emily ran up and hugged him without a word. Tears filled Bear's eyes for the first time in years. "You saved us," she whispered. Bear shook his head. "No, sweetheart. You saved me." She frowned slightly, not understanding. Bear smiled. "You reminded me why we ride." From then on, every ride they took, every engine they revved, every mile they rode, it wasn't just about the road. It was about redemption, about brotherhood, about standing up when others couldn't. And sometimes, when the sun dipped low and the engines roared across the horizon, Bear would think about that day, the sound of a child's cry, the dust rising behind their bikes, the moment when fear met courage. A little girl had run to the bikers crying, "They're beating my mama." Oh, and in that moment, something inside a group of rough, battle-worn men had remembered what it truly meant to be strong. Not the kind of strength that breaks bones, but the kind that heals hearts. And that was how a frightened child, a bruised mother, and a band of unlikely heroes changed the way an entire town saw humanity forever.